Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sharp Side Saturdays. We've got a great episode planned today. My man Gianni the Greek is joining me again. Gianni, how are you, my friend? We've got so much sports going on today between NHL, baseball, UFC. I know you're excited. Have you been?
Never better, man. You're absolutely right. You kind of expect the summer to be the slower time, and it's not until the All-Star break. Like once the All-Star break comes in early July, then there's like a 2 or 3 week lull as people go on vacation. They await the college football and NFL season. But right now, with NBA finals, with NHL finals, with obviously the MMA going on week in, week out, and baseball each and every day, there's a lot of markets to bet into and a lot of value because anytime you have playoffs going on simultaneously, rest assured you have an influx of recreational bettors. And odds makers and bookmakers always have to factor what kind of market are they dealing with? Are they dealing with just a sharp market? Are they dealing with a recreational market? Is it 99% recreational like the Super Bowl? Or is it 99% sharp like college basketball totals on, small conferences? So it depending on what the market's made up of is how you approach it, at least for myself, being more of a market guy. And right now, it's just prime time to pick off some overvalued, undervalued spots where the books are simply defending themselves against the action that they're already anticipating. And guys like us just go in and pick up the value. Doesn't mean we're going to win. I'm coming off a big loss last night on the Miami Heat. But if you could get the best of it and put the odds in your favor, when the dust settles, you should be up when make enough bets. So far, so good, man. And I know you're doing your damage. And every time you fire off an MMA bet, the market respects it. So, that's all you could ever ask for. Putting yourself on the side of where the odds are in your favor. It's never going to be 100%, never even going to be 90% or 80%. You got to, again, I don't mean to go long, but you got to know anytime you bet a ticket, even if you're a 60% guy, which there's not even anyone walking around that's laying 11 to 10 that's a 60% guy, but let's say you would still be throwing out 4 out of every 10 tickets. So you can't bet with the mindset that everything's a lock, but obviously you have to approach it believing it is, or else, you don't have that confidence. So enough about me talking. Let's get into some action today.
Yeah, and you had mentioned you like something a lot on the NHL Stanley Cup Finals today. Vegas is up 2-1 in the series. Game 4 being played in Florida, but it's not a side you like tonight. I know there's one side of the total that you really, really, really like. So if you could tell us what that is, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, great series. And being here in Las Vegas, I try to separate myself from ever being a fan with any sport, but it's kind of hard not to get excited or involved if something's going on like that. So I've kind of stayed off of the side. Even the other night in game 3, I knew Florida was the sharp side, but I thought Vegas could really have a shot at going up 3-0 and ending this series. And until a minute 42 in the third period, that's what was happening. But we had the under in game 3, and it worked out well. We're going to come back with the opposite in game 4. We're going over. We're going to follow what happened in game 1 and game 2, and here's why. Real quickly, bottom line is this. They're overreacting to one final score. Coupled with the series now, it really matter. Meaning, can Vegas go up 3-1, come back for a game 5, and finally shut it down? Or can Florida serve court and defend their home court, their home ice, tie it up 2-2, and put the pressure back on Vegas? Enough of that's irrelevant to me. For me, I'm taking advantage of the fact they adjusted this total down to 5.5. And here's what I mean. Game 1 total opened 5.5. That was an overreaction from what we saw in the season. They played twice during the season. Both times it was 6.5 total. More importantly, these teams have played 100 games this season. 70+% of the games for Florida have been over 6.5 as far as the total goes. That's what the line was set at. Over 47%, close to 50% of Vegas's games have been set at 6.5. We're looking at a 5.5 now. That's a huge adjustment. It's definitely not warranted. They adjusted it in game 2 after game 1. They went from 5.5 to 6 because they saw a lot of goals scored. And then they saw a few goals scored in game 3, and they over-adjusted now once more in game 4. For me, it's simply that. Again, a half a goal matters. If it was 6, you're not getting as good of a number. I'm willing to lay up to -125 to go over that 5.5. I think you're going to see a wide open game with now the pressure off Vegas. Again, they wanted to close that down, get that 3-0 lead, and Florida was playing for not to lose, not to go down 3-0. I think you're going to see more of a game 1, game 2 style where they just open it up and let those pucks fly. I think we're going to see over 6 get there easily. We're going to have 5.5, so we'll cash that ticket.
Love that. And I just want to re-highlight this comment because I am fully in agreement. I could listen to Gianni talk about gambling for hours. So thank you for being here.
I love gambling. I'm sorry. I love this. I have OCD and I got into sports betting and gambling as a kid. And that's all dude, this is what I was reading right before we got on. World's greatest stock trader. Like, I just want to learn about trading and trading. That's what I enjoy doing, trading. And to me, that's what sports betting is. You're just trading.
Are those tickets behind you or those cards?
These are from events, going to a bunch of UFC, a bunch of boxing. Half of them are from when I wrote for the Game of Today. I would get credentials, and that was during the Mayweather era and the Pacquiao era. So I got to see a lot of great fights during that decade. But the other half were from VIP sitting. When I was working with that card counting group, they were giving us all kind of comps, and we were we were playing a lot at Red Rock, and they were owned by the Fertittas, who own the UFC. And they would give their top gamblers with the highest credit limits, the guys who had the highest, per hour averages, give them tickets to the fights. So I got all these comps to so many fights as an advantage player. That gets them really mad when you beat them and then they give you free shit on top of it. Yeah, they don't take that too kindly. But while it was happening, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Do you have a favorite sporting event you've ever been to?
Yeah, well, I still remember. Absolutely. Phillies World Series, 92, 93, Toronto Blue Jays and Philadelphia Phillies. For me, again, it's way back, but then I was still a fan. I was a sports bettor, even booking some action, but I hadn't separated myself from just being able to be a trader and not caring about the noise. You know what I mean? Just strictly looking at the charts. And that was fun for me because I had action on the game. I bought tickets from a scalper, and I made sure I bet enough to cover the scalper, the tickets if they won, to cover the party afterwards. We were going to hang out, and they ended up winning the game we were at. We had tickets behind the catcher, like a couple rows up. It was just a really great night. And it was, again, living above my means, spending more money than I should, over betting. Those were the fun times. When you had a fat pocket for a couple months because you were making big scores. And then again, eventually, that goes up and down, and you are broke for a couple weeks as well. But that's why I remember that, because it was that time in my life where I still had a gambler's like mentality, and I was making money at the same time. So it was more fun, where now it's just a job. I don't enjoy sports no more, man, unfortunately, except MMA.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I try, like, I don't live in New York anymore, but I'm from New York. So I have like super strong allegiances to the Yankees, to the Jets, to the Rangers. And like, I try to keep those 3 teams sacred, and that's it. So I won't bet on them just to bet on them ever, but I won't bet against them unless
that's all you got to do. Just separate them from the equation, because you're going to get emotional. And once you learn how to win, and you're obviously a winning sports bettor, you're an originator, one of the few guys on the planet that actually talks on camera as an originator. With that said, the fact that you're able to separate that shows why you're a winner. Because once you learn how to win, all you have to do is then fight your inner demons. Don't overbet. Don't revenge bet. Don't chase. Don't bet for action. Don't wait till tomorrow. Those kind of things we're just human beings, and we fight our own emotions. You have things going on. You have family shit. Like, we're human. So like, once you learn how to trade and how to be a winning trader, then it's all about fighting your own inner demons and having teams that you like. You're human. How are you not going to get emotional or not want to see them win? Or again, teams you hate, want to see them lose. So that's why again, not to go long and not that what works for me is to completely separate myself from being a fan, because again, I don't have the discipline to be both. I have to be one. And luckily I got the discipline to just be a bettor and nothing else.
Yeah, and I'm able, and it's funny because with fighters, I have a couple fighters that, like Conor McGregor is the reason I fully like got hardcore into MMA, and so I'll always have like a fandom of his. But outside of that, there's a couple fighters. Like I respect all the fighters, but I wouldn't really call myself a fan per se of like more than one or two fighters, which I think is very important because it's weird because I know a couple fighters too, and it's like, oh, like
Exactly.
I'm able to look at this objectively, but it's like, okay, if I am betting against someone I'm friendly with, so I try to stay out of it as much as possible. You mentioned it too, especially being in Vegas, doing what you do. You meet fighters and stuff, so it's hard, but you got to do what you got to do, and this is how you earn a living. But I'll get into my pick for the day. UFC 289 tonight should be a fun card. Going to target the Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush fight. I like Charles as an underdog here. I can't help but think what this line would be if Oliveira never fought Makhachev, who's currently the pound-for-pound #1 fighter on the roster. Oliveira is a really difficult guy to deal with for literally 99% of lightweights, probably not named Islam Makhachev. He's a good striker. He's powerful. He's big for the division. His jiu-jitsu is outstanding. He's a finisher. Beneil Dariush on a great run right now, but he hasn't fought a hitter like Charles in a very long time. He had been knocked out by Alexander Hernandez. He'd been hurt by Drakkar Klose. Again, he's put together a nice string of wins, but he just got a win over Gamrot where he was like a plus 180 underdog, and now he's a minus 150 favorite against Charles Oliveira, who is a more difficult fight for him than Gamrot. I expect this fight to be primarily on the feet. I don't think either guy, I think because their jiu-jitsu is so good, I don't think there's going to be a lot of grappling exchanges. But if there is, I do think that Oliveira is very, very hard to top time. If you look back to the Kevin Lee fight, Kevin Lee got on top of him in rounds 1 and 2 and ended up losing both those rounds just because Oliveira is able to create scrambles, end up on top, threaten off of his back. So I think the story of this fight is going to be what happens when they exchange on the feet. And I trust Charles's hardware a little bit more. We've seen him in the past get hit and come back from that. I like his ability to kind of recover even when he is hurt because he does throw himself into the fire. He could get knocked out here. It is a live scenario. Don't get me wrong. But when they're exchanging in the pocket in what I think is at best a 50-50 scenario for Dariush, you want to be on that plus money. I personally I'm picking Charles outright, but I just can't see there being any value on laying a minus number on Dariush here. I'm picking Oliveira to get the win, and I'm betting him plus 125 or better. I think is a solid spot.
We are so on the same page, and not to steal any of your thunder, please give me 2 seconds because I agree wholeheartedly. I see the line kind of moved a little against us. I love telling it like it is. I speak to Andrew a lot. I respect his opinion a lot. Andrew has a lot of sharp information, not just with MMA, because when you're a winner in one sport, you network with people and you deal with other winners, and that's just the evolution. What's going to happen with him? It's obvious. With that said, I like to make my selections when it comes to MMA, and then I have 2 or 3 guys that I work with, talk with, and I respect their opinions. And if they come in on a side, I know with more confidence to bet on it. Oliveira was one of those sides I liked. You came in on Oliveira, and it made perfect sense to me because for me, it was simply a recency bias. Like, wait, before he fought Makhachev, the argument was, is he better than Khabib? And now he's a dog to Dariush, who was closed at almost plus 200 against Gamrot in his last fight. As a trader, to me, that's just an obvious bet, regardless of how I feel the X's and O's match up. I have to take advantage of the overpricing. And when we first bet Oliveira, the line moved in his favor. So your bet got respect. The fact it's now moved against you is irrelevant. That just simply means that there came in sharp action against you. And that's going to happen a lot because once you move a number, of course, the EV changes. A lot of times, if a sharp group bets team A, fighter A, and that line moves so significantly, the truth becomes that fighter B becomes the plus EV side if the books overreact. So a lot of times that just becomes the case where you have 2 winning bettors on opposite sides, but the biggest difference is that they're on different numbers, meaning they're not both at the same number. One's not laying -7, the other's taking +7. It's usually one took +7, the other's laying -4.5 or 5, and they both end up with tickets with the best of it. And I think that's what happened here. So I love your side on Oliveira. I think win or lose, Andrew, you got the plus EV side, and now they're just going to have to go out there and do what they do. But there is resistance on Dariush, and to me, I just don't understand it. I think those are just bettors that maybe understand the X's and O's better than I do and see a matchup that favors him. Because from a market, a person just reading the market, there's nothing to make you want to lay chalk on Dariush in this spot.
Sorry, I'm like trying to log out of my books, keep making noise. They're like threatening to log me out, giving me the
keep firing, bro. Keep firing.
Giving me the siren. But here's a fun fact that is very relevant to the line here, in my opinion. Dariush closed plus 200-ish against Gamrot. He's minus 150 against Oliveira here, and he was minus 150 against Tony Ferguson.
Yes, thank you, dude. Thank you. Again, you know the X's and O's a million times better than me. So if you saw something there, I'm sure you would have mentioned it about advantages and disadvantages. But just what you're mentioning about the betting line, it should be so obvious to like bettors that don't bet their emotions or their opinions, that are honest enough to be like, you know what, I only look for inefficient betting lines. And if you can't look up and see Dariush at minus 150 against Charles Oliveira and conclude that's an inefficient betting line, regardless of outcome, then again, we see things very differently. And as long as you're winning, God bless you, keep doing what you're doing. But I just don't know anyone that's been profitable with that approach, because to me, that's taking the worst of it. Anyone betting Dariush today, even if they cash a ticket, Andrew, they're taking the worst of it. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter that you're cash a ticket. You're the product of good luck. That's all that is.
Yeah, it'd be like taking a stock and not buying it here, waiting till it gets to here, and then buying the stock.
And what you're doing at that point is you're simply hoping that someone thinks in the future that it's worth more than you. Yeah. There's no fundamentals behind it. You're doing nothing. You're simply speculating that in the future, there'll be a bigger fool. There'll be someone that thinks it's worth more than me. You didn't get the best of it would have been like people buying NVIDIA right now at 395 and 400. I took all the money I could and shorted it at 415 because how could a thing double and triple in 20, 30 days and not eventually come back to earth? Like, what did they do? Did they create the cure for cancer and no one's talking about it yet? It's just not possible. That's human emotion. That's greed. That's what all that is. Just like line moves, it's greed and fear, up and down is greed and fear. And that's all I trade, man. I trade on people's greed and fear. I don't mean it in a negative way, but that's what you got to take advantage of as a trader. And like I said, right now with NVIDIA, test all those tech stocks. Mark this right here on Andrew Gambas's Saturday morning, June 10th, 2023. Within 6 months from now, Tesla, Google, NVIDIA, all those stocks, Apple, that are at their highs today will not be there in 6 months. That much I could almost guarantee. I will say, mark this, bring this back up in 6 months. Look at the prices right now on those stocks. It's just not going to happen. There's euphoria right now in the market. I saw it when Bitcoin hit 69,000, and the same people were buying Bitcoin at that time are doing it right now with these tech stocks. I was that guy. I made mistakes in the past. That's why I'm saying learn from mistakes of others, and maybe you won't repeat them. Stay away from the hype. Once it's there, it's over, dude. It's over.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one more thing I wanted to address is, like, if you've been following me for a while, you know that 90% of the time lines go my way. So anytime a line doesn't go my way, everyone's like, oh, are you doubling down? Or do you think this is telling you something? And is this making you scared? It doesn't do anything to me. I don't go bigger on sides that I get resistance on. I don't go smaller on sides I get resistance on. Obviously, it's nice having those 9 out of 10 times where I'll take an example from this card. Diana Belbita, I bet at like plus 115 and she's minus 120 now. It's nice when that happens for sure, because long term you want to be beating the closing number. But I believe my opinion is better than the market, and I feel like 99% of people don't have that fortune. But when my opinion is going up against the market, those 1 out of 10 times or 10 out of 100 times, like this Oliveira fight, it doesn't even faze me in the slightest. But I don't have enough of an ego where I'm like, oh, I'm going to double down and triple down, because then my biggest positions end up becoming the ones that are my biggest positions end up being ones that are opposing the market, which doesn't really make any
You don't
sense.
want to do
Yeah,
exactly. That's, you don't want to have your biggest, uh, because again, it's not 100%, 90%, 80%, 60%. You're strictly putting the odds better in your favor. Why would you want to have your biggest bets out there when there's guys that also are respected betting the opposite of you?
yeah,
That,
100%.
it makes
And
perfect sense, dude.
so yeah, it changes nothing for me. Long story short, I will do
Oh,
nothing.
there, baby.
I won't feel any different. I won't add. I won't hedge. I won't do anything. I'm going to keep my initial position like I always do. And yeah, so let's take a look at. We got some questions here. Let me scroll back
Yeah,
up.
please. I got a few minutes. If you guys have any questions, anything,
Your thoughts on the women's fights to go over 2.5 as parlay pieces for this card. So the women's fights are Belbita and Oliveira. So that one's interesting. Neither of them have crazy knockout power, but the volume they throw, like they both are super high volume. This might be a fight where there's over like 200 combined strikes landed. Those are never the types of fights that I want to be involved in when I'm betting a big number on over 2.5. And like I said, even though they don't have like that crazy one punch power, when you're laying minus 300, minus 400, like you leave yourself very, very little wiggle room, and it's just not my style. Gianni, do you feel similarly to that? I mean, if you have any other insight to add, that'd be
dude.
great.
You listen. As far as breaking down the matchup, I'd rather listen to you than listen to myself. Instead, what I'm going to touch on and shine. Please don't take this the wrong way. The best advice I can share is that take the one word out of that question, and that's parlay. Unless you're just doing it for entertainment, like doing it for fun, then go ahead, have at it, throw in the parlay. But please, 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 anyone out there watching this right now who is actually putting their hard-earned money and doing it for profit, take the word parlay out of your, just take it out of your thoughts. It doesn't exist until you're so profitable that you could then have fun with it. Don't even look at it. It's just like with stock trading, when people that start getting into stocks start messing with options, because instead of, it's the cheaper way to get involved in the stock. It's a cheaper way to go long or short. So they go options. But what they don't realize is 99% of options are offered by institutions. They make their most profit when the option expires at a price that hurts you the most. And they have the money to drive those prices to that number when that option is going to expire. And that's why 99% of traders that use options lose, just like 99% of bettors that use parlays lose, because the hold is so much better. I've lived in Vegas now 30 years. Every year, these are publicly traded companies. They put out their figures. You can look. They make about 4 to 7% off straight bets long term. Out of every $100 we bet, they expect to make between $4 and $7. Over the last 30 years since I've been here, out of every $100 that's bet on parlays, they expect to make between $40 and $55. 10x. Their hold is, they expect to make 10 times more than you from parlays than straight bets. Why would you ever do something that gives them that much of an advantage? Even if you're the best at this, you're giving up so much of your edge by playing a negative EV proposition. The outcome of the main event has no relevance to the outcome of the first fight of the night. Why would I ever tie them together? Like whatever happens in the first fight, it's going to affect what happens in the main event? Of course not. So what was the parlay do? It's not correlated. These outcomes aren't correlated. That's why they're negative EV. Just please, 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 you will save so much money by not parlaying. Last week in MMA, I hit a I hedged, but I had a five-fighter parlay for almost 10 dimes. Even if I hit that parlay, I'd be down so much money in my lifetime. I've hit 8-teamers, 9-teamers, 10-team parlays. I've made big scores on parlays, and I'm down money. I am negative in parlay money. It's great when you hit them and your pocket's fat for that week, but if you look in the mirror and you're honest with yourself, you barely scratch the surface of getting back money from all those parlays you lost over the years. Get them out of your vocabulary, and you'll get so much further ahead. Trust me, even if you're not a winning bettor, your bankroll will survive so much longer by eliminating parlays from your vocabulary. The worst bet that's ever been offered. And of course, as a bookmaker, I'd be offering it too. I'd be having hot chicks telling you to parlay on social media all day long too, just like they're doing. I'd be doing the same thing. Hot chick after hot chick after hot chick would be showing you parlay scores, big parlay scores. That's what they're doing.
You know what, too? Like the reason I haven't made a parlay this year, I have in the past. Like I've tracked some, I've done actually reasonably well with them. But the reason that I stay away from them, it's so rare that the best odds are available on the same site. Like
at the same book, at the same minute.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, please. And I don't mean to interrupt you. That just shows you just how advanced your thinking is. Just that thought alone. That how is it even possible? Since you have to place the parlay right there, right then, and tie those teams in at the same time. How in what universe is all of them giving you the best of it at that exact sports book at that exact second that you're tying them into your parlay? It's just not feasible that it could possibly, it could happen once, twice, but if you're putting them in every UFC card, you're not getting the best of the number on everyone. It's not even a chance of it. Great point. Great point.
Yeah, I fight for every cent I can get. If someone's minus 110 on one book and minus 109 on the other book, I'm taking the minus 109 because
how do me and you not have some kind of show once a week, a little segment?
Yeah, we have to
start talking, just even taking questions. I love your guys that follow you are awesome. They're all so into sports betting. I see some of the questions that pop up. They're all sharp. They all want to get sharper. It's not about nonsense and bullshit. You got a good community, man. You got a good community. You guys got a good guy at the top of it. I swear to God, dude, I'm just being honest with you. There's few people, I've been in this industry 30 years, that I trust more and that I think more highly of. And in my lifetime, I've moved, not talked to personally, but moved Billy Walters' NFL. I've moved the Kosher Kids' MLB baseball. I've moved the Poker Kids MLB baseball. I moved the Chinaman's NBA. I moved for a lot of gamblers who are all-time guys. And you're looking at one. Only thing he needs is time. Only thing is Andrew needs is time. He does it exactly like all those guys did, and that's why I love working with you, brother.
Thank you, and I love working with you too. And I'm so glad you brought that up because last time I think we talked about it after we ended the show. But through like this chat, like the chat for this show and my Discord that I have, I'm so happy with how things have turned out because I have a group of people that are learning how to bet the right way. Like I feel like there's always going to be some that pop up, but I feel like I've weeded through the people that are looking for a quick hit.
The quick score that need the win this week. And that's what I created, that chat room. And I said, even if it's only 2 people in there, I don't care. I want to help you 2 people that actually give a shit how to do this right. So when we're losing, we admit it and we walk through the losses together because in the end, we're all going to profit together. You've turned the profit every single year, bro, since I've known you. I've heard of you, seen you. I know the end result working with you. The only thing you need to do is teach, not even teach, it's just share your wisdom with your members so that they absorb it and profit from what you're doing, your work, because it's a waste if you're winning and they're not taking advantage of it. And the only reason they wouldn't, Andrew, is if they're over betting, if they're revenge betting, if they're doing those things. I'll say this till the day I die. You ain't sweating if you ain't over betting. Like if you ain't over betting, you ain't hitting me up on social media. The only reason you're yelling at me if I'm up for this year, last 5 years, is because you're over betting. Like that's the only reason you're yelling. You're emotional because you've overbet our edge. There's no one should ever be mad at you. Even if you're down over 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, you have 5 years of fucking history, bro. You can't decide when they're going to join you or how long they're going to stay or when they're going to bet. All you can do is try to win year in and year out. And you've done that. And the people that have been able to use that information wisely did the exact same thing. But I'll tell you the truth. I bet you probably now the guys you probably have, it's closer to 80%. But I'm sure early on, you're lucky if 50% of your subscribers made money in all those years you won. It's sad to say. It's just the truth because they didn't have the discipline, man. You need this, what you're doing with your community, talking to them, helping each other out. So you all acquire that discipline together, dude. Sometimes I don't have it. And just talking to you, texting you, just reminds me, dude, reminds me to get in that mindset. So again, you could edit a lot of this shit out. We're just talking now. And hopefully a couple people that still hung out, God bless you. And I wish you the best. Again, whether you follow or fade me, ignore me, it's irrelevant to me, man. I want you to win. I swear to God. And I want people to not lose money to these big corporations. Unwilling, like when they don't have to, like, don't just give it to them. At least make them fight for it. You know what I mean? Make them fucking don't just give it to them. And when you're parlaying and doing shit like that, you're just giving it to them, man. When you're just betting a game because it's on TV and you spent 5 minutes handicapping it, just be honest with yourself and say, I'm gambling. Just be honest. And that's okay. That's okay. But when you're lying to yourself and you're acting like you're a trader and you're an investor and you're doing stupid shit, again, you know what's going to come of it. And that's why you need to have a community like you're doing. Stay on top of it. As much as it sucks, it's hard work. And check in every week. Check in with Andrew. Follow him on social media. If you have a question, if you're in a losing streak, write him. Tell him how you're feeling. This matters more than anything else, dude. The picks are, again, I could give you picks every day. Ask me for picks. I don't care. That's not going to change your life.
Yeah.
A 1 pick, 5 picks, 10 picks aren't going to change your life. What's going to change your life is actually absorbing the knowledge of how to trade for profit, or realizing it's not for me and doing it for entertainment so that it doesn't hurt you. Because as long as you're doing it for fun, that's okay. But don't lie to yourself and be like, I'm doing this, because then you're just wasting hard-earned money, man. Guys, I see work all week and then they go to the sports books and they lose it. And I'm like, you never had a chance. Look at the shit you're betting. Look at how you're approaching it. Why are you even doing that? Like, you could do so much better with that money than what you're doing. And I'm just speaking from experience, because again, I've spent more money losing than most of you guys. I lost more than probably anyone watching this right now, I could be certain of. I've lost more money to bookmakers in my past. I don't know if I'm going to die ahead. Hopefully, like, my life, I'm so much better now, but I'm honest. I don't know. From 14 years old, 15, 20, 25, 30, when I was a losing bettor, if I just saved all that money, if I'd be in a better place right now, I don't know. But what I do know is over the last 10 years, since I've learned how to win and doing it the right way, it's been life changing. So I'm grateful for that. And it's because of guys like you that I've surrounded myself to and actually absorb. So guys, use an asset like Andrew. And again, it's not an infomercial for Andrew. But I just have so much respect for the work he does and the kind of person he is, like the person he is, who matters more to me than anything else, that he deserves it. Like he actually does. He's a decent dude, man. He really is.
I appreciate that. And that was awesome. This is a good question for you, I think, because
I love it.
Sharp information from multiple
I'll tell you now.
Maybe even from this fight, you probably might have even
exactly. This is it. You're a voice I respect a lot, and a lot of guys know I respect Nick Kalikas a lot as well. I work with him. I've known Nick for years. I know just how sharp he is. Meaning I know his experience and I know his level of expertise. So I respect his opinion, especially when it comes to MMA, because I know he was the real originating as far as bringing out odds back in the day in MMA. With that said, being a handicapper is a different story. But to answer that question, that's exactly what happened with this fight, where we got down with Andrew on Andrew. Like the Oliveira, I had Oliveira as a side. If Andrew comes in on the side that I like, I'm betting it. I'm not even going to think twice about it. I'm betting it. A lot of times I'll even piggyback you. But I'll bet it and even release it to my subscribers. I will never do that. If Andrew shares a play that I don't like, I won't share that with subscribers. I don't think that's right. I think I already have to like it. And if he comes in on it, then it's okay for me to use it. Otherwise, I'm doing a disservice to him and everyone I'm working with. They should just buy his stuff. Why are they buying me for MMA? With that said, we go in on Oliveira. The line gets respected just like we expect, but we have resistance because once Oliveira went to slight favorite, you saw some Dariush money. I do a little research. I find out one of the groups that Nick works with is heavy on the Dariush side. In fact, they hit, he won't mind me saying it, they bet Dariush the same time they bet who's fighting Nunes again? Aldana. They bet Aldana at like 330, at 300, at plus 280. So they're really high on Aldana, and they were really high on Dariush. That doesn't get me off of Oliveira at all. It didn't even make me limit my bet, I'll be honest with you, only because it wouldn't the other way around, meaning I know they're not 100%. Like even Andrews, whose opinion I respect, I don't want to be opposite him, but I don't expect him to win all the time either. So if I'm really strong on a side and I really, all my boxes check off, even if Andrew comes in opposite, I'm going to bet my side. Because I know it's not a disrespect against Andrew or his opinion. It's just that I know he's not 100%. So maybe this time I'll be right and maybe he'll be wrong. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens on occasion. And the more times than not, I'm probably wrong and he ends up being right. But with that said, you still have to do your thing. And that's what I do. When it's conflicting sides, if I have an opinion, I go with my opinion. If I have conflicting sides and I don't have opinion, I strictly pass. As a mover, hopefully I got down for both guys and I make my commission regardless. But as a bettor, I don't want to get involved. I just want to sit this one out. I respect that both these guys probably got down at an opportune time. And right now, the market's probably not offering me much. So maybe I should sit it out. That's my best advice, because once again, you're guessing now. And just my thing is, I always say I'm not the smartest guy in the world, so I try to keep things as simple as possible. Don't have too many trading factors. I only trade 3 or 4. The same thing with sports. I have 5 factors. That's it. Have your little boxes. They check off. Keep it simple. And when 2 guys that you know win conflict, don't guess who's right unless you have an opinion. Then you go with yours, because at least you know someone else sharp agrees with you. You have that going for you. But if you don't have an opinion, don't try to guess which one of them's right, or who's been hotter lately, or who's been good with the girl. Like, don't try to come up with your own reason on why you should back one or the other, because then that's what you're doing. Again, you're trying to find a reason to just get action down, and that's not reason enough.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that's like exactly the answer I would have given too. Like I'll even take a ball sport, for example. Like I originate MMA, I bet everything. I don't originate MLB. If you send me an MLB play and someone else that's sharp sends me the other side of it, I'd rather pass and wait until you guys are on the same side and hit that side twice as hard.
That's how exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Dude, I pass on so many things. I get so much, dude, how much information do you go through your hands every day?
You wouldn't believe it. Like when people who ask me to like text them, oh, like text me what you're betting. Like if I'm going to text you and I'm betting, like you will be sitting at your computer all day and you won't be able to have a job, you won't be able to have
because you're moving on everything. I know you're moving on everything. That's why I say, just even though you're a specialist in MMA, because that's what you're an originator in, you're betting every other market because you're getting winning information in it and you know how to use it. Because again, once you win, you have to network, you have to get down, you have to use guys like me that have accounts that could get people down. And then my network is shared with your network shared with, and that's how it goes. And next thing you know, you're dealing with multiple sports in multiple markets. You know what I mean? You have great information.
It's so funny how quick that happened for me. I used to only bet MMA, and I would maybe bet other stuff like very recreationally. Like I would be 10x on MMA what I would be on anything else. But if someone asked me, I would say I don't bet other sports, because I really don't. Like it'd be here and there. Like if I'm whatever, it was either very minor or not betting at all. And then it felt like something snapped, and all of a sudden I blinked and I'm sitting here betting.
Yeah, but when I love when you send me other sports.
Yeah,
I do.
It went from me not betting other sports to sitting here all day betting first half WNBA unders. Like it's just so funny how quickly it happened. And I mean, I'm not afraid to say I win in other sports too. Like I
know you do.
Yeah, and it just goes to show too that you don't have to originate everything. You don't have to have.
I don't. And like I have my own baseball. I have my opinion in NFL. I have my opinion in college football. I have an opinion I've been doing for 30 years. But I know that if I bet a baseball game, I'm not moving the market. I'm just being honest. I've been able to profit year in and year out doing what works for me. That's why I tell people, just do what works for you. Find your edge, whatever it may be, however it may be, however you trade. and just stick to it. You know, we can't all do it the same exact way, man, or you can't all be in like you're fortunate, man. With your MMA is that respected that it moves freaking markets. That's awesome. Like that's an amazing power to have. And the fact that you use it without manipulating it is even tells me even more about the person you are. Because I work with a lot of guys. Let me just share this real quick.
Yeah,
A lot of guys that are in your position, Andrew, they would use your craft to benefit themselves differently. What I mean by that is, sure, they'd share enough to win with other bettors like you do, so you have subscription and monetize it, a different stream of income. They would bet like you do and this and that. They would have accounts, they would move, but they would also set up better numbers for themselves. And you don't do that. And to me, that just shows such character, because Andrew could easily put out fighter A, get all of us moving in fighter A's direction, and then come in and plow fighter B at a much better number. And the reason I'm bringing this up and able to talk about it on Andrew's show, which is industry shit that you would keep behind the scenes, is because he's an honest guy who I know doesn't do that. Where I know other guys I work with, they do. And I'm not knocking them. That's their hustle. Like, listen, I don't know if I could control the market that way. I don't know what I'd be doing with it. I'm just being honest. I don't know how I'd work it, having that much power. But the fact he doesn't manipulate it, he doesn't use, he could use me to move. I bet it through 5 accounts that are labeled as sharp or bots. And next thing you know, he's going to light up the screen everywhere, let alone the other guys he works with too, that I know move through sharp accounts. That's all he has to do. But the fact he doesn't do that, I'm telling you, is so huge for you guys, his subscribers. That's that trust you should have to have an originator that's not doing that. Because again, you see the amount of profit in units. You could do half of that, make the same amount of money selling, and 10x that in his bets by manipulating the market. But then you have to also look at yourself and live with yourself and be okay with that. And thank God he's not that guy, and all his shit's legit. So I know when it comes, because of that, back to that question, sometimes when it's conflicting sides with Angel, I know it's a side. With the conflicting side, sometimes I don't know what they're doing. Are they manipulating the market? Are they scalping the market? Are they edging something off? Do they have a big scalp set up, a middle in another sport? So when you have an originator that you don't have to question their motives, that's the biggest bonus you could ever hope for. And again, this isn't me like patting you on the back, but that's just so huge in our industry, and no one talks about that. I think few casual bettors realize how much that happens, the line manipulation early when the lines are, when the limits are lower and you could move a market for a couple $1,000s, dude, not for a lot of money. People think it takes millions of dollars. It takes a couple limit bets for you in MMA.
Oh, for sure. And I'm so glad you said that, because that's something I would never even bring up, without it coming up in a conversation like this. But I actually feel like super proud. I mean, whatever.
No, and excuse me, that's why I brought it up here, because I could.
Yeah.
Like the way you run your business, and the bettors out there should know that a lot of guys do that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I am very proud to say that I've never once in my entire life done that, and I never will. There's never going to be a time where I purposely mislead someone ever. It's just not.
No, you don't. The proof is there. That's why I'm saying the proof is there, and now it's a long enough sample size that I'm able to talk about that stuff and say, boom, you got one guy that doesn't do that. And be careful, because I'm sure a lot of the guys in here are maybe trying to work with other guys in different markets. And all I'm trying to explain is you got to be cautious, because a lot of bettors with the power to move and manipulate is exactly what they do. They move and manipulate, and to have someone that's sharing their information and doing it like actually real is very rare in this industry. That's why I keep touting you, dude. I'll keep doing it. Because you're doing it, and I hope others start following. I know so few people win and can't do it, but I know there are some specialists out there that are really good do it how he's doing it, man. I promise you, do it how Andrew's doing it. And have a little patience and you'll do just fine.
Is over 6 NHL today at plus 100.
Here's what I would do. If I win at over 5.5, that means the worst you could do is push. When I was a runner here on the strip, that's how I would deal with it. Because a lot of times I couldn't get the number, but I still wanted to get action down. And for me, it was if they win and the worst I could do is push, I would still bet it back then. Now I lower my bet size because I tell myself you're not getting the best of it. And here's what I mean. If I was going over 5 and it was 5.5, I would say never do that because then I could push and you'd lose. You don't want to be in that position. But it's not as bad of a position where if my bet cashes, the absolute worst you can do is a push because the worst you could do is land on 6. But with that said, I would limit my wager a little. Or I would wait because I'm seeing more under money, even though it looks like, recreational bettors usually like the over. After that last game, don't be surprised if more 5.5s, if there is a bunch of 6s, pop up. I would wait a little or shop around, but I would still bet 6 at even money, at plus money. I would just lower my bet a little because, again, if I win, you're not going to lose.
Yep, well said. Is there a total that stands out today? I bet the under in the Oliveira versus Dariush fight at minus 165. The market moved on that, so I wouldn't recommend betting it at minus 230. I also bet the Landwehr under at plus.
Yeah, you had the Landwehr under, but you got that down at like a coin flip.
Yep, which I think is good. Let me see what the market is at there. I'd probably play that up until minus 122. Let me see. That's still around. Some sites have it, some sites don't. It's minus 130 some spots, but I think minus 120 or better. That you're probably gonna get your money's worth on that one.
Yeah, you're not giving up too much. You're not giving up all that much as far as ROI. I always say, you're not going to trade every top and every bottom. Like you have to know that going in. You always want the best of the number. But at least for me, as a bettor who bets every sport, every market, I try to stay as disciplined as possible. But I give myself a little bit of leeway too, especially if I'm looking for confirmation. Like I'll lose a little bit of ROI to confirm a play, then try to be first, then try to, buy bottom and sell top every time. That's just, to me, it's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. Belbita at plus is probably a good bet, but the judging is pretty bad in Canada. Yeah, I mean, all I can do is make the read, get the number, and whatever happens in the fight happens in the fight. I had Kai Kara France last week. I had Gian Kim a few weeks ago. It's just there's nothing I could do, and of course it's frustrating. Of course I'm annoyed after it happens, but the next morning I wake up and it's already out of my head. There's just that kind of stuff is gonna even out for the most part over a long sample size. I personally think that I probably end up on the wrong side of fluky stuff a little bit more often because I'm on the right side in terms of process. But overall, that kind of stuff is going to even out for the most part.
May I interject real quickly? I just can't help myself. I love you, Crazy Jay. And great question, especially you're absolutely right with the judging in Canada. And more importantly, with it highly favored to go to a decision, you're leaving it in judges' hands. And you kind of don't want to be in laying chalk in those spots. I love your reasoning. The only thing I would change real quickly is the one word, probably a good bet. No. Belbita at plus money is an absolute fucking great bet. It was a monster bet. It was the best bet you could possibly make. How do I know that? Because right now I have to lay minus 130 to get that same bet. That alone tells me that Belbita at plus 110, 105, 101 is a phenomenal bet. There's few bets in the market today that are better than that. Like to know that you got plus and it's now minus 130, again, you did your job as a bettor. That's all you could ever hope for because you took a 50-50 proposition at even money, and he didn't get even money at plus even 110. You took a 48% proposition, and now it's minus 130. It's now 56-57% proposition. So you beat the implied win probability by 7%. you're not doing much better long term. Like if you could do nothing but that and manage your risk correctly, you'll get rich. You will be a wealthy person. Like you will be one of the most profitable sports bettors to ever walk the earth if you could do that with every bet. If you could do it more of your bets than not, you'll do very well in life. And again, anytime you see that you got plus money and the fighter is now minus, your job's done. Kick your feet up. You can't do nothing else. The only thing you could possibly do right now, the only thing that should be going through your head, do I scalp it? Like, do I now bet fighter B and have a free scalp? That's the only question you need to ask yourself, because your job's done. You can't control how Belbita feels this morning, whether she wakes up with a headache, whether she got pissed off at her boyfriend last night. You don't know what the judges are going to see, whether they're paying attention at that moment or they're not. None of that we can't control. But what you can control is what bet did I place and where did I bet it at? And you got plus money at plus 110. The market said she should only win this 48% of the time. And now with the weigh-in, with all the information factored in, with sharp guys betting it, with square guys betting it, the market now says, no, she should win 57% of the time. And that's probably a good bet. No, that's a great bet. That's the bet you need to be making over and over and over again. Very hard to do. Very hard to do. Somehow this guy does it over and over again. Thank you for that. But yeah, eliminate the probable, and plus is and the good. Put great, and you're on your path, brother. You're on your path. If you could isolate that as being a phenomenal, regardless of outcome. She could go out there and get knocked out in 30 seconds. And as a trader, you should be like, I did a bang up fucking job. I did a great job. I missed nothing in that fight. I missed nothing. There's nothing I didn't see. I saw all of it. The only thing you didn't see is her get knocked out, which you can't, because then you'd be a psychic. I'd be paying you fucking $1,000 an hour to tell me my fortune. That's not the case. You're a sports bettor. You're a trader. You're a prognosticator. Best you could do is be an advantage player that moves the odds to your favor. You're never going to be a lock. And sorry to go long, but that to me is just so important. It's so key. That's all we're trying to do is place good bets. And you've got to be able to conclude that you placed a good bet. Not probably, not maybe. You did. Because probably now you're kind of waiting on the result. Like, are you going to conclude it's a good bet when she wins? If she loses, it wasn't a good bet. You can't be a result better, dude. You can't be a result.
Process.
Forget the results. They take care of themselves if you focus on what matters most.
Process. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And then this is funny because I would notice this morning, I'm actually on a streak of like every card. There's, for whatever reason, it's a women's fight where I bet an underdog that closes as a favorite and wins. Like last week, it was Elise Reed at plus 125. Before that,
yeah, and you got worried with that. You're like, I don't know if I would lay the chalk now. You're we got a great price, but I remember that because it had moved quickly. She moved quickly on you. I remember.
Yeah, there was Lisboa against Jessica Rose Clark. There was Jan Doroba against Marina Rodriguez. It's just like kind of been a hilarious streak of just every card getting a underdog that closes as a favorite and wins. So hopefully it continues today. Obviously not going to win them all, but to your point, if you're betting something as an underdog that closes as a favorite,
job done, bro. Job done. Pat yourself on the back and hope they do their job next. Yeah. You know,
when you place a 3% play, I know that it's 0.75% of your bankroll. However, is that bet to win? I'm guessing for you, favorites is to win and dogs is risk. That's how I do it. I'm guessing.
Yes. That's exactly how I do it. I bet to win if it's a favorite, meaning if I'm betting a favorite at minus 110 and I want to win 300, I'll lay 330 to win 300. If I'm on a dog, I'll just flat bet the 300. Well, I will say, because most of you guys watching bet heavily MMA and some don't even bet other markets. I know that, a lot of guys just bet a particular sport, and that's great, especially if you become a master of it. So I'm not knocking it. I'm commending it. With that said, because it's mostly money lines, that becomes what was I just going to say? That's where that problem comes in, as far as the percentage, because you're betting mostly money, almost exclusively money lines, even when you're betting totals. So here's what I was getting at, that if you're starting out and you haven't concluded you're a winning bettor, you're profitable yet, you don't have it all down yet, I think you should flat bet. I really do. Because favorites are, when you're probably going to be on more favorites than underdogs early on, you'll be more confident betting favorites. And you could get in trouble doing that. Like laying chalk is a fast way to lose your bankroll when you're overpaying for it. And until you get it down to where you know that favorites warrants being a favorite, you may be better off flat betting everything. Like flat betting your straight bets and flat betting your favorites and your dogs. When you hit your dog, you'll make more money. When you lose your favorite, you'll lose less money. And you could even lower your dog money, like bet a little more on favorites than on dogs. But I do it now to where I'm betting the win or I'm flat betting. But again, I will say this: if you're betting money lines, be cautious, because if you're laying minus 200s, minus 300s, minus 400s, that adds up very quickly. You lose a couple of those bets in a row, it's hard to recover that money. And that's why, until you know your plus EV, maybe even flat bet some of those chalky favorites and see how your results are before you start backing them with big money. Because again, it's a quick way to lose money fast. We used to call them bridge jumpers back in the day. The guys that would lay heavy chalk on the 1-9 pony at the track just to show. There's 6 horses in the race. The favorite, he's got to at least come in top 3. These guys will bet 10 dimes, 20 dimes to win $2, $10, $20, $50, thinking it's a lot. Well, they're called bridge jumpers because it's great until one of those horses doesn't come in 1, 2, or 3. And that's, again, not go long. That's why when we're betting money lines mostly, which MMA is, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble betting favorites, especially if you're betting through credit shops and you're not pulling money out of your pocket, because that changes everything. That's why I say be cautious also following guys just because they're winning on sites where they're putting their picks. If you're not betting real money and emotion gets involved, it's a little bit different. Not that you can't paper trade and turn it into real trading, but there's a huge difference between paper trading and real trading. The emotions that get involved are humongous, like a huge difference.
Yeah. How much did Andrew lose on the KKF bet? It was a 5-figure swing for me.
5 figures?
Yeah, it was a 5-figure swing between what I bet pre-fight, and I actually got a lot down live at plus money on KKF also, which he closed minus 750 on the live line. It's just one of those things, like, what can you do? So yeah, 5-figure swing. It happens.
I did too. So between us, I did too.
It happens. I feel like we touched on the parlay thing earlier. If the odds aren't,
no. I would, again, Nick, I love you. And I get it. It seems at least like, why wouldn't I just tie them up? They're heavily favored to win. It's cheaper than betting 2 and 2, putting up the whole 400. This way, if I just put up 200, I save money, but you got to remember the split. And then you're like, oh, but even then, if I split, I save on the juice. No. There's no correlation between the 2 favorites. That's where the problem comes in. Your reasoning's on point. You're trying to save money. You're trying to make more money with less money. Those are all good things. Those are all things as traders we need to be searching for. Unfortunately, it's the solution that's being offered is a parlay to do that. And we already know going in that it's negative EV because the outcomes aren't correlated between the 2 minus 200 favorites. That to me is what needs to become obvious, that the outcome between one fight and the outcome of the other are irrelevant. So the only reason I'm doing this is because A, I don't have the bankroll to warrant this bet. B, I don't know if it's plus EV and I'm just going to tie in a parlay, so I'm risking less. Like, those are all bad reasons, because if you're confident in a minus 200, you lay 200. Like, it's a good bet. It's a good bet. It should be minus 300, minus 250. That's all that matters. The parlay is what you I swear to you, if you could just eliminate that, pretend they don't offer it, like, don't even take it off that tab at your sports book. Like, it's not even an offer. It's like a teaser. Pretend teasers aren't there unless you're doing it in NFL through key numbers. But guys are teasing NBA games, guys. I mean, they're teasing NBA totals that are 200. Like, what's a half a point worth when they're expected to score 240 damn points? And you're paying for a point? You're paying to tease this shit? Guys buying points and stuff like that. All that, the edges with the book, the advantages with the house, they're getting the best of it with every one of those bets. When you're buying points that you shouldn't be, when you're parlaying when you shouldn't, when you're teasing, those are all negative EV bets. And all they're going to do is take away any profit from your positive EV bets. If you're capable of placing positive EV bets, that shit is just going to wipe away any edge. That's all it's going to do.
Awesome. Yeah, love this stuff. There's a funny
conversation. Nick. Good call. Yeah. I'm glad he saw it that way. That it just doesn't, like, if I win, I'm the first fight, and that's the second. If I win or lose, it doesn't have any correlation to that other leg of the parlay. Now, in some sports, it does. Like, if I'm minus 17-point favorite and the total's 40, and I like the favorite, if the favorite covers, then they probably should go over. But that's why the book don't let you parlay those type of games. Here in Vegas, they don't allow those. You see some college football games, they say no parlays. You know why? Because the outcome's correlated. If the dog wins, it's probably staying under. If the favorite wins, it's highly probable they had to score points to make that happen. That correlation makes the parlay advantageous to the bettor. So what does the book say? Nah, you can't place a parlay there. We'll let you do it to these other 70 games, but that one, no, you can't tease that game. And again, when they're telling you shit like that, you got to know going in, they're probably giving you the worst of it. It's like I always say, when you walk in a casino, look at the limits. Look at the limits. Wherever they're taking the best, biggest limits, they're probably the most confident that you're getting the worst of it. If they're willing to let you bet what you want, and you notice some of those big ass parlays they're willing to take, try betting that on a college basketball total in MAC League. Try to bet that, see how that turns out for you. But they'll take that parlay all day. That pays out $12 million if it hits, but they won't take a dime, $1,000 on an over/under and a MAC total. Tells you the advantage they believe they have over you in that parlay.
Absolutely. There's an interesting conversation going on in the chat right now. Daniel says, "Man, our show. Can you recap the picks?" Robbie comes back and says, "Yep, you're getting an hour of insanely valuable info." I get it, Daniel. The picks are Charles Oliveira plus 125 and the over in the Vegas Knights game, 5.5.
Over 5.5, up to minus 125. I know there's some sixes out there. Don't pay worse than minus 120. I mean, more than bad. Don't lay any juice, because the over should be favored, meaning so you should be able to get even money if you're doing this. Real quickly, this just came in. It's probably not going to be there anymore. Alabama, Wake Forest over 10. That's game 3409. Alabama, Wake Forest over 10. And tonight, Stanford, Texas over 11.5, minus 105. So Alabama, Wake Forest over 10. Texas, Stanford over 11.5. Both extremely sharp college baseball plays. Number probably won't be there because these came in while we were doing the show. But there's some more information. I just looked real quickly to see if anything came out for these guys.
Yeah. And that's just kind of what we were talking about earlier. Some people want to fish and some people want to be taught to fish. So hopefully we can do both for you in this show.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the show. Did you rewatch KKF? I didn't. I did not. I don't watch fights unless I'm like preparing for another fight. So yeah, I watch them live, and after that, I kind of won't watch it again until the next time France or Albazi fights. I'll watch it back to kind of study.
I had that fight. I honestly, I had a 5-fighter parlay tied into him for 9,500, and I wouldn't have hedged. I hedged it because I was around sharp people, and I didn't want to look like a degenerate. Like, the company you keep matters. Yeah. Seriously. A part of me was like, dude, let it ride. And when they were ready to read the announcement, I was actually pissed that I hedged 4 dimes, because I was like, dude, Cara France won this. And I just pissed away $4,000. And then they read off the decision. I was like, thank God. See what happens? You do what's right over and over and over again, good things happen to you. But me having a season better, and I was like, the degenerate in me was like, dude, let it ride. You have 500. You just bet $500. You could win 9,500. Let it ride. That's a big score. It's a big score. But my reasonable brain said, yeah, 10 grand's a lot of money, but that's not guaranteed. You could guarantee $4 grand right now. guaranteed, regardless of what happens. And thank God the reasonable brain won out. Because back in the day, rest assured, the emotional brain would have won out. And it would have been a sad night. But there were some good nights where a Cara France did win and I had that money. And rest assured, I had a really, 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 really good time with it. But in today's version of Ace, no. I hedge, I lock in that profit, I take the capital, and we move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
I thought he won, though. I thought he won.
People like you and me are looking to earn, not gamble. That's how I always think about it. We're looking to earn. We're not looking to gamble. I personally, I don't even enjoy gambling. Like when I was first coming up, I used to like enjoy the thrill. I never forced action, but I always liked when I had more action because it was exciting. Now for me, it's just my emotions is not tied to it at all. I don't like gambling. Like I love the process of earning, like the process of like breaking down the fight, getting the best of the number, competing with myself. I love that. But the actual like gamble itself, like doesn't really do much for me.
No, me neither. I have to feel I'm getting the best of it, even if I'm fooling myself. Like meaning before I was a winning bettor, I still felt I had the edge. Where I will never. I've been here 30 years. I don't think they've taken more than $100 from me on a roulette table. You know what I mean? But I played blackjack. I'll bet sports. I've played poker. I won't play, games where I think the house is like there's no way it's beatable. Instead, I'll try to find a game like I knew blackjack was beatable. That has been proven. So I tried beating that. Sports, I knew. I moved for guys that actually won money. So I knew that was beatable. And that's what I went after. I don't gamble either. I let those things alone. Like I'll throw $50, $100 in a mega bucks machine if I'm in a casino going to a movie or something and it's at 15 million. You know what I mean? Like we'll start and but I don't gamble either. I gambled more when I was broke. I bet more on games than I ever do today that I have money. Like when I'm talking, the biggest straight bet I make today doesn't compare to the size of bet I made when I was broke, if that makes sense. This is being true. Like the amount that I was willing to bet then compared to now is astronomical. It's ridiculous. I would bet my net worth back then. Like I'll all in. Like if I felt confident, all in. And that's just not the way to play it. That's not the way to play it.
No, not at all. This is fun. This is fun as hell. Should we do a weekly show? Would you guys watch that? Would you guys watch if Gianni and I did a weekly show?
I hope they would, man. I really do. It'd be a ton of great information as well as good content. They don't even have to like me. You can even cover me out. I just talk.
No, we need to do something for sure. Anything else, you guys? Questions?
Yeah, before we go, anything else? And even if it's good or bad, I love criticism. That's how you improve. Seriously.
You want to hear something that's going to make you happy? There are the same amount of people watching this stream. There's actually more people right now watching this stream that in the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, thank you. And I know so many in the MMA community got mad at me when the UFC hired me 5 years ago as their betting expert because there were so many qualified guys in the space, more knowledgeable than me in MMA, put in more work in that particular space than I had. But what I think a lot of didn't realize is I didn't apply for it. They were realizing that gambling was about to turn mainstream. It was about to take over. They wanted to bring in someone that knew gambling so that the foundation is built off solid principles. That's why they went after me. Because at least they knew with me, I'm going to be able to explain favorite, dog, over, under, what the money line means. All the things you have to at least know before you start sports betting analysis on a particular sport. And I think most in the MMA space didn't understand that they were bringing me in as a gambling expert. I never framed myself as an MMA expert or an MMA historian that wasn't the gig. The gig was I was a profitable sports bettor that had turned profit in the MMA betting market multiple years, documented. They were starting a show where they wanted to show weekly results. So they reached out to someone where they figured definitely knows gambling. And okay, recent history shows good MMA results. Let's go. Let's bring them in. And they just liked what they saw. That was it. It wasn't, no disrespect to any of the talented, the huge talent that's out in this industry and in this space. They shouldn't have looked at it as a knock on them. If anything, it should have motivated them that, look, the door's opening up for an untrained. I didn't go to college for that shit. I didn't go to no communicate. I don't have no communications degree. I'm not even properly trained. I didn't know what the stuff they were saying in those rooms, what a jib was, there's so many things you don't even know about filming shows. I didn't know none of that stuff, but they gave a gambler a shot. That should have motivated people. Instead, they just got angry, and I don't even understand why. Like, it should have been like,
I interject really quick?
Look at our opportunity. And now you see, now it's like they're grabbing all different people, different walks of life, you know?
Let me just say two things I want to say. One is, any person who ever said anything about that would kill to be in that position. Like, straight up, there is not one single person who ever said anything about your UFC deal, your contenders deal, that wouldn't trade what they have right now to be in that spot. And that is a absolute fact. And to tie in a second point to that, there was a point in time where I think you were on a Cold Streak and Contender Series when you first came in. People were pushing back, and it was like the cool thing to do on social media was to make fun of Gianni. Like, you were the easy target. You were never going to swing back at people. You're on TV. You talk loud and you're energetic, and like, it was just you're friendly. It was an easy target. And even myself, I vividly remember this. I've told you this story before, but I want to tell it on air too. This was in 2018, probably 5 years ago. And I was in college at the time, and someone had tweeted like, who the hell is betting XYZ? And there was a picture of you with like this big, like a big smile, like you have a huge tan. And I tweeted that, I responded that picture, and it got a bunch of likes, whatever. And that was the one and only time I had done something like that. And as the years went on, I literally felt like such a jackass for doing that, because like, making people laugh was not worth it. B, you knew so much more than I did at that time in 2018. And you still know more than me about betting now, for sure. But even MMA betting at that time. And 3, I would have killed to be in that position. And so I literally felt like such an idiot when I started to learn. Like, I was probably 22 at that 21, 22 at that time. Now I'm 26. Like, over the years when I actually learned, I felt like such an idiot. And I was like, everything that I hate when the people do that now is I even took the bait once and did it then. And so it's funny because I realize I look like the idiot, and the people who do it now don't realize that they look like the idiot. But I say it all the time now that anyone who's doing that stuff doesn't know a fraction would kill to be in the position. And it's just so funny that I even like fell into that. And again,
because you're emotional, you're human, dude. It should stir something up in you, or you wouldn't be human. I wouldn't expect anything less, especially since we didn't even know each other then. So you don't know if I'm really an asshole in real life. You don't know. So it's fair for you to feel like that and do that. I don't take that at all personally.
It is not. It is maybe fair to feel that way, but to put that on social media, I felt like such a jackass. And it wasn't even that bad. There's people who do like way more, but it just goes to show that like that's true like growth. Like that's the difference between being 22 and being 26.
Dude, and honestly, I knew this last summer, the Contender Series, I went through 8 weeks, I couldn't win. Like, you know, you can't, when you're under that magnifying glass at that and like that intently, I knew going in, like, that's a possibility. That when I bet every day, I've done this long enough. I document 8 years worth of picks every day. You could go look 6 years ago on this date, my picks are there. So what I'm saying is, I knew you could go dig in there and find a worse stretch over 8 weeks than what I'm doing there. But it's just so magnified under that, the light of the UFC, that people just dive on and pile on and pile on. So no matter what you do, you can't win. Like, it doesn't matter if I won 7 years prior to that. It wouldn't matter if I won 10 weeks straight after that. They're going to have that little window to just bash on you. And as a sports bettor, you have to know going in, especially if you're doing it like we do, where we put our opinions out there and we're trying to monetize them also. So we have to know going in, a lot of this comes with it. You got to deal with it. It comes with it. I'm trying to monetize it. So I have to take the heat when I'm doing bad. Just like I want the successes and the accolades when I'm doing well, I got to be able to take the heat when I'm doing bad. And as a bettor, I knew there's going to be bad times. Like that's the inevitable. Like they're going to see some horrific swings. And if I'm on TV every week, some of that's going to happen while I'm live. And you should, with that stuff, like there's nothing you could do. That made me a stronger person, to be honest with you. It hurts when it's happening because you're human and you try to act like you don't care.
Yep.
But you want people to like you. Everybody wants people to like them. But also, dude, like thank God I had gone through it as a pick seller to where I had developed thick skin and didn't let it change what I was doing. Like I wasn't going to go on there no matter what. Fire me. You know, my contract was up 5 years, but regardless, fire me. I'm not going to go on there and tell bettors to lay minus 2,000 when he opened minus 200. I can't do it. Like who I am, I can't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. Like I told them, like, I can't be that guy who gives out that pick. Like to me, that goes against everything I believe in. Like there is no value just because I think he's going to win now. Like I can't tell you to bet Bo Nickel at minus 5,000 just so I'm right. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Like I just can't do it. So put someone else that's comfortable doing that. That's fine. I'm not, because I know I'm telling these people to do the wrong thing. I'll look great when he wins. And again, I'm not saying I had good picks that were losing over that stretch, but what I'm saying is I wasn't willing to change and sell myself out and be like, now I'm going to do things different just so I get accepted. I just stuck to my thing, man. So I appreciate you saying that.
And you know another difference, real quick, between me at 21 and me at 26 is I've been there now. Like I've been in that
position. You've been me.
I've been there. I've lost. I've probably had as bad or worse as a Contender Series stretch as you had. There was a point in 2019 where I think I lost like 15 UFC cards in a row. I'm not even kidding. I think it was 15. I could go back and look, but it literally felt like, oh my God, there's nothing I could bet a favorite. I could bet an underdog. I could bet one fight.
It didn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I'm losing every single card. And I think I'm a much better than I was back then, but I was still plus EV back then. And it just goes to show, like, when you've been like, I don't know, when I tweeted that in 2018, I probably had 6 months of serious tracking, betting, that kind of stuff in my life. It's like, winning is like, you can't lose that much if you have.
Yeah, he's got to be terrible. It's got to be bullshit.
False. Could not be more false, because now this is my 6th year doing this series. So I have 5 years tracked. I've been through the 10 losses in a row. I've been through the 10 wins in a row. And it's not about what happens in those cold stretches and those hot stretches, because they're both going to happen. It's everything in between. Like, are you getting that are you getting 55 out of 100, right? Are you getting 45 out of 100?
They're imposters, right? Andrew. Hot streaks and cold streaks, write this down, are imposters. That's all they are. They're phonies. They're fakes. They're not real. They don't exist. What matters is the big sample size of bets, because once you start feeding into hot streaks and cold streaks, you're done. Once you put any relevance into hot streaks or cold streaks, you're done. Once you start doing that, you're betting more when you think you're hot. You're chasing when you're doing everything wrong. You have to look at a hot streak the same as you look at a cold streak. This is an imposter. I'm not this good. You're never as good as your best hot streak. You're never as bad as your worst cold streak. You got to look at where you are over the cumulative, the big sample. And that's where you got to be honest. Like you're over 1,000 bets, you're up. But I could find a stretch of 100 bets where you look like the biggest square, or 50 block bet where you look like you couldn't pick a winner if we gave you the newspaper, tomorrow's newspaper. You couldn't pick it. That's just probability, man. That's just that is also an imposter. Yeah. You're not that bad. You know what I mean? Just like an imposter is being 11-0 over the last 3 days. That's like I tell my subscribers. I see that most recreational bettors, that's the biggest mistake that they make. They chase hot streaks when you should be running from them. Yep. I enjoy hot streaks. I look forward to them. I love when they're happening, but they scare the shit out of me because I know it's not real life. I know it's not sustainable. When Andrew goes 80% over 30 bets, the only thing I'm thinking is, how do I manage risk correctly over these next 30 so we don't lose that amazing run we had? Because I know he can't maintain this. It's unsustainable. He's still going to turn a profit over the next 1,000 bets, but I can't expect him to continue doing this over and over and over again. And if I bet like I expect that to happen, I know what's going to end up. I'm going to be broke because it's unsustainable. Like when you see 30% ROIs, 50% ROIs, dude, that's unsustainable. What you need to remember, the first thing that should pop into your mind is, I missed it. I missed it. If a guy's telling you I'm plus 40% ROI in 2023, the only thing that should be crossing your head is, I missed it. I missed the run up. Now I'm buying at the tippy top is what I'm doing. If anything, you need things to start to cool off a little bit, see a little choppiness, and then dive in and follow this winning better that you know is winning. But if I miss the whole ride up, the last thing I want to do is jump in up here. And that's what I see most people do, because I sell picks. That's why I try not to promote short-term streaks, because I know if I put that I'm 11-1 over the last 3 days and have a big bet in NBA, they're going to run the fucking bet more like that. Those last picks mean that I'm going to hit the 13th. Like that's the end all be all, that I'm that good. So I try to not do that. That's why I put out, this is what I am for 2023. Listen, I win, I lose. I don't know over this week, over next month. I don't know what I'm going to do. What I do know is, if you manage risk correctly, this is what we've been able to produce. And there's no reason that should stop. And I mean, it's exactly what you're doing. You can't control every single week, bro. You can't do that. So you can't get too high or too low. But when you're doing this on social media and having shows and segments and this and that, then you're going to have that light shined on you, and it makes it even harder. And if you're not cut out for that, I don't think you should put that light on you. Like, because again, even for a seasoned vet, it affects you. You know what I mean? Like, that shit will affect you and change how you approach the game. And you don't want that.
And that made me think of two things. One, I was actually with a friend the other day who at the gym, and he's like kind of in the space, and he was like, dude, you're number one. He's like, you're the number one MMA bettor out there. He's like, why don't you promote more on Twitter? Like I said, look, I could go on Twitter right now and say, I've won 8 of my last 9 UFC bets, or sorry, UFC cards. That's a fact. I'm 8-1 of my last 9 cards. It is so irrelevant. Like, and I could get 20 people to buy my
sign up, of course,
right then and there. That's not the people I want. It's not who I want on board. It's not how I want to, because those are the people that are going to come in if I do have a losing card and say, oh, this service sucks. It's the people looking for a quick hit. And I'm never going to try to sell you a false sense of reality, because we're not going to go 8-1 every 9 cards.
Even worse, you go 8-1 for them and they think you're going to do that every day.
Exactly. 8-1 and 9 cards is great. I wish I could do it every 9 cards, but it's such a tiny sample size. I'd rather tell you I almost have 2,000 tracked bets now. I'm at like 1,900 or something like that. I'd rather tell you these are my last 1,900 bets. This is how I've done over my last 1,900 bets. This is hopefully what you can expect for me to do over my next 1,900 bets. Do this for the long term with me, or don't at all. And obviously I can't control it. And if someone says, hey, I bet once in a while, I want to bet with your stuff for a week, sure, go ahead. But it's just not what I'm going to sell myself on, because I'd rather sell myself on my last 1,000 bets, 1,500 bets, 500 bets than I would my last 9 cards. I'm just not going to do it.
Florida, South Carolina, under 12.5, up to -130. Again, I'm not sure if it's still there, because I was talking while this college stuff was coming in. But anyone out there betting college baseball, if it's still available and you could find the under 12.5 on South Carolina versus Florida. Oh no, it's 10.5 now. Wow, that's how these move so fast, man. The college baseball moves so fast. You got to be on top of it and move it. And a lot of that stuff, I can't even end up sharing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
like, some of that stuff moves so fast.
For sure. Is Kelly from Vegas a profitable bettor? I don't know her at all. I think you do. Maybe you can answer that better than.
Yes. Here's what I'm going to tell you about Kelly. Kelly's one of the few in the industry that have that type of brand that actually has made money, has positive lifetime earnings betting sports. So few people can say that, number one. Kelly can say she has positive lifetime earnings betting sports over the last decade. Before that, I can't tell you, but I can tell you over the last decade since I've known her. Before she was gambling, who knows? But since I've known her, and the thing you got to remember with Kelly is she has a vast network of information. So she gets a lot of good information. The flip side of that coin is you're also a brand, a personality. So you're under the least optimum situation many times. Kind of like when we do On the Line, a show. I tape it 2 weeks before the card is. There's not props out. Lines haven't moved. Like we're under it's the least optimum betting conditions.
I would argue the least optimal betting position was what you were asked to do on Contender Series. They were asking you to bet they're asking you for a bet on every fight into the closing line. So it's like you either
closing number at that day. Exactly. The year before we did an afternoon show that was profitable. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours before the card would start at noon. I would go to the Apex and we would do pick thing. That went okay. That went well. Went profitable. Again, not making excuses.
No, it's not an excuse. It's true.
But I wasn't going to turn it down, even though I know it's not optimum. And that's why where I'm saying is you have to understand that Kelly is forced to give an opinion a lot of times. Mm-hmm. People want her opinion. In fact, she gets paid to share that opinion. So she can't wake up Monday morning and tell Barstool, I don't like anything. There's no prop, there's no side, there's no total. I don't have a video for you guys on Monday Night Football. So she's forced to give something out. That's the difference where I'm telling you the Kelly in Vegas that I know, that I text with, that I know has accounts, that bets. Yeah, Kelly's sharp. Kelly's been around. She has like I said, a vast networks of sources in different markets that she leans on. And when you do it for as long as she has, or I have, or many of you have, you build intuition. And again, if I'm just sitting in the living room and I surround myself with people that are in a particular business, if I sit with them every day, even if I'm not in that business, I'm going to learn about that business. It's just, you can't help it. And Kelly's been surrounding herself by nothing but sharp bettors and learning year after year after year. But like I said, be cautious judging on situations which aren't very optimum. Meaning, again, we're forced a lot of times to give opinions on matchups that she's not betting. You know what I mean? She probably may not have any money on it. I don't have money on it. But again, you're still forced to give an opinion, and that's the problem, I think, with the industry. When once you become a brand and you're getting paid to give out picks, you got to give out picks, right? And sometimes there's just not picks.
Yeah, 100%. And just I would still rather take that opinion at the closing line from you than I would from someone else, because it's not going to be any more optimal conditions for them than it is for you. So I just wanted to throw that out there. How much MMA prop betting do you consider compared to money line bets? So I'll give you mine, and then Gianni, you give yours. But I was more into prop betting when I first got started out. So like I said, I started taking this seriously in 2018, late 2017, early 2018. I was 21 years old. Now I'm 26. Obviously, back then I was betting $100 units. Now I'm into the thousands. So it's obviously a very different game. I don't bet nearly as much props as I used to, but I have 3 tiers to my Dog Club, which is the platform I distribute my picks on. The top tier, every Saturday morning, I give out my 3 favorite prop leans for each card. And I personally am betting 500 on each of those, which is a fraction of what I'm betting on money lines. And I do think there's an edge on props, but I do think there's 3 reasons why I don't bet as much or as big on props as I do on money lines. 1, the books have a bigger hold on props. There's always going to be a bigger vig. 2, it's higher variance. So you could make a good bet on a plus 1,000 and it's still going to lose way more often than it doesn't. And 3, it's harder to get money down / tip it. So someone like me who's giving out my picks and information, I might be able to, like, if you shop for props, you'll be able to get way bigger discrepancies. For example,
Oh,
I
yeah.
could get a +6. Like I'll give you one that I bet today. I bet Charles Oliveira to win by knockout at +620. And depending on where you're looking, that might be +400 on some books. So it's very important. And I specify in all my write-ups, I would play this up to these odds. So I might say, I bet this at +620 at Bet Fast Action. It's +600 at Unibet, +600 at Bet Rivers, +550 at FanDuel, and +550 at MGM. I would not play this worse than +500. So to answer your question, I bet props way less and for less money than I do compared to money line bets, but I do still feel like I have an edge betting those. It's just harder to tip, harder to track, harder to kind of be accountable to the public, and also it's higher variance and a bigger vig. So that's my longest winded answer to that. I don't know if you dabble on the prop market a lot. I have a feeling you're going to have a similar answer to me.
Yeah, honestly, I love when I get sharp props because I've seen historically what you touched on. The edge is great, meaning a Super Bowl. I have more money on prop bets than I ever even get close to the side or the total. Like all my money's wrapped up in props because of the edge. The negative side of that is during regular games, regular season, you're not going to be able to do that and consistently get away with it. You're going to be getting shut down. Like the prop limits are low to begin with. And then if you're constantly beating the number, you're not going to have that account for very long. And where I'm at in my life right now, as far as my sports betting evolution, my career, my goal is to get the down. The more I could get down, the higher, the more money I make. And throwing in props negates that. I end up losing accounts. It ends up pissing books off. Like, again, I like to bet them because of their edge, but I'm also cautious firing a ton of them because of that. You just get shut down because a lot, not enough. They don't have enough on the other side of a lot of props. That's the problem. Like, it's not a market where the sharp money could just mix in. A lot of times they just don't have enough two-way action and they're getting a bunch of sharp money, like unlike the Super Bowl where they have so much two-way action they don't even care. That's why you're able to clean up every year. But that's my take with props. I think as a casual, as even as serious sharp bettors who are working with a bankroll less than a six-figure bankroll, you should be looking at props. You should really be looking to take advantage of props because, like Andrew said, you're going to see a lot of discrepancies where you could scalp and make free money between your accounts and you'll get a lot of value, but you'll see as your capital increases and you want to get more money down, it starts getting a lot harder with props and you just stop dealing with them as much because of that problem. Again, a lot of people don't realize that becomes a problem when you win. Unlike poker, where if you're a great poker player, you'll be on magazines, they'll give you trophies, they'll celebrate you at the damn casino because you're not taking their money. They don't care. But if you're an advantage blackjack player, they stop dealing to you. If you're an advantage sports bettor, they start limiting you or cutting you off. That's just the truth of it. Like if I could just go play 8 hours a day blackjack, I would do nothing else. I swear to God, I wouldn't bet sports. I don't know if I would trade stocks, probably not. I think I would just put in 8 hours, 5 days, 40 hours a day, a week, over a year. I'm going to have over 2,000 hours. They're done. They have no shot. But I can't do that. I can't go play 8 hours every day and have them deal me blackjack. So unfortunately, that's why I don't mess with things like props as much as I would like to. But for smaller bankrolls, bust them up, man. Bust them up.
Yeah, it's very important to have the outs, which is a conversation for another. Maybe we'll do an episode on that sometime. We need to do something because this is fun as hell.
At least once a month, something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure. So let's do that. I think 100% of the people watching this know where to find you, but just in case there's a couple people out there that don't follow you on Twitter, that don't watch your show, where can they find you?
Greek_gambler. I should be on social media a lot more. I apologize for that. It's just not my thing. So many times I wish it was a habit where I turn my phone on because I do some cool stuff. Like a lot of my life's boring because when you're just trading, look at my hair, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just doing this. You're at home. You're working. I'm unshaved except when I go to the studio. So it isn't glamorous, but there's some cool shit that you could video when you're out betting this. And it's not a habit for me because I'm just haven't been grown up in that generation. And I'm like, damn, that would have made a great freaking piece of content. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Cool. And we're back here every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yanni, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, man. Good. Best of luck this weekend. And more importantly,
Likewise.
best of luck the rest of 2023 and ahead, brother. Thank you guys for giving us your time, for sharing your morning with us. And I hope you guys do damage as well. God bless.